Fellow nerds, what's going on? This is Charles. It sounds nerdy. I got my bald friend and cousin Jamoka with me. Let us know how the sound quality is. Let us know if you can hear us, if it's good, if it's loud enough, so we can adjust that stuff early on. Otherwise, we're here to talk about Ori and the Blind Forest. Um, First of all, if you haven't already, we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/sounds nerdy. We also have a gaming channel. If you go to youtube.com/sounds nerdy, the gaming channel is affiliated with the Sounds Nerdy channel, so you can subscribe to both of those. This is Game Club, where we pick a game, play it for a month, or a little over a month in this case, and then we talk about that game. And as you already know by the title, Ori and the Blind Forest, Microsoft game. It was a Microsoft exclusive for the longest time, and then it was ported to the Nintendo Switch, and it came out for the PC as well. So there's a couple of different places you could have gotten this game: PC, Switch, and Xbox One. We're going to be talking about this game. Let me see. I want to open up chat. Sounds good, Robert Stewart said. Thank you, Robert. All right, with all that said, guys, we are going to get started here. It is actually, we're going to start with the story. We're going to start discussing the story first. So it's story time. Ori and the Blind Forest. So the game is about a guardian spirit named Ori that falls from a tree during a storm. Ori was a newborn during this storm, so of course he couldn't take care of himself. That's where a character named Nuru comes in, and Nuru raises Ori as if it was her own child. Then a while after that, there was an event that caused the forest to go blind. So basically, the forest lost all of its light, and that's where your journey begins. Does that sound about right to you, Jamoka? Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So this is going to be interesting because I actually really, really liked the story. Um, and I'll let you know why in a second here. Let's go over some of the characters because there are characters in the game. There's only a few characters. Naru, of course, is the kind of bigger character that dies at the beginning. Spoilers. And just in case you don't know, there's going to be heavy spoilers in this discussion. So if you haven't played the game and you want to later on, I advise not listening to this because we're going to talk about spoilers. Um, so Nuru was one of the characters. Gumo was another character. Gumo, for you, Jamoka, is that long limbed character. It was kind of dark in color. It was like a creature. You meet this character early on, and at first it was your enemy, right? And then as the story goes on, it kind of shifts gears. And then Sin, and then of course the tree and Kumo. Kumo is the bird, and Sin is the little light that you carry around with you. It's actually the light of the tree, the little bit of light of the tree that was left, and it follows Ori through this adventure, and it helps him attack the enemies. That's who that is. Um, Now, those are the main characters. Those are actually probably only characters in the game, other than the enemies that show up from time to time. The little slimes that show up on occasion, and there's really not any boss battles, I would say, in this game. So it's just most of the stuff is environmental. So um, now the reason that, that I like the story is because for it was the way that they went about telling it was simple. I do agree with you there. It's very simple in the way that it tells the story, but it also uh, lends itself to them being able to tell the story using like cutscenes that don't involve much voice acting or um, very little dialogue. And I think that's where you kind of fell off because you didn't. There was not much dialogue, and the dialogue that was there came up not often at all, right? So I think the reason I fell in love with the story of Ori was because of how well the cutscenes that they did have showed these characters' reasoning for um, doing what they do. So at the beginning, so for an example, we'll use Kumo for an example. Kumo is the big bird that you run into sporadically throughout the game. And he or she, I should say, is depicted as the villain throughout the game. And then you get to a point in the game where there's a cutscene and it shows why this bird is so upset with Ori specifically. And it shows three baby chicks in the tree of light when it was flourishing, and or in a tree when it was in a tree specifically. It wasn't in a tree of light, but it was in a tree a little bit farther away from the tree of light. And then that explosion happened with the tree where the tree lost all of its light and the forest went dark. So the bird wasn't at its nest at the time, but the chicks were, and the chicks were looking directly at the light and they couldn't take it. So they passed away. And the bird kind of watched this from afar, trying to get to her chicks. And then that's where it kind of starts with Kumo being upset with the light. So Ori it's light basically is a piece of that tree. So the bird is out for revenge basically. It had to watch its chicks die and it's out for revenge. And that cutscene, I don't know if you did you how far did you make it pretty far through the game? Okay. Okay, so you're pretty far. I'm not sure if you made it to that specific cutscene, but most of the cutscenes are just like that. So Gumo, for an example, when you run into Gumo for the first time, Gumo was evil, and he tried to lure Ori. Gumo is the long limbed creature that kind of crawls around as you're running around this world. Gumo lures Ori into a trap, and this happens while you're playing. I believe that you've made it past this part if you're making it to the far left of the map already. Gumo leads Ori into a trap and tries to drop a boulder on Ori, but ends up being trapped himself. And Ori helps this creature out, and that's when that creature um, sort of shifts gears and starts to be a little good and starts to help Ori out throughout the adventure. So you will see this creature help Ori um, take light to places where it should be, so he can. So on your journey, you're just restoring these different sections of the map. That's pretty simple. And Gumo is helping you out after the first. I think it's about an hour to an hour and a half of the game. He starts to help you. I guess the reason I like the story is because it showed a lot of emotion for not saying much at all. Like the cutscenes, because of the way that the music, and we'll get to the music, because of the way that the music is, and because of the way that the action sequences play out in these cutscenes. There's a lot of emotion in these cutscenes if you take a good look at them, and it's these cutscenes are saying a lot without saying much at all. And I thought that was pretty dope. There are not too many games or even movies for that matter. The only movie that I can think of is Quiet that attempted this and did pretty well with it, where silence, where it's pretty much silent, but the emotion of the characters, they let the emotion of the characters tell the story. I really thought they did a good job with that. That's the major reason I like the story. But that's all I got on the story. I like the characters. I grew to love the characters. Um, even I don't. Yeah, if you're not paying attention to the story now, do you mind if I tell you what happens at the end? Okay, so at the end of this journey, Kumo, the bird, the big Kuro. I've been saying Kumo. Kuro, the big bird, um, is chasing Ori. There's this chase sequence, and he's chasing Ori, and eventually catches up with Ori, and is about to do away with Ori. But the whole world is on. There's this chase sequence, and the whole world is on fire. So Kuro has one more egg left in its nest, and he's out chasing Ori, and he sees that the world is on fire, and he sees that his egg is in danger, or her egg is in danger. So she leaves Ori be and flies off. Takes the last light, the last bit of light that was needed from Ori, flies off, and puts it where it needs to go. Because that's what Ori was trying to do, but it got chased by Kuro, so he got sidetracked. So at the end of the game, the bird is the one that ends up saving this world from destruction. And I mean, with all that said, the bird did it because his egg was in danger as well. But the bird saved the world, and the world looks fondly on this bird for doing that at the end. So at the end, the story, in my opinion, it took this character that I thought was just evil and just wanted to kill Light, and changed this character into something completely different toward the end. I personally wasn't. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see this bird saving the world. I seen us fighting this bird and killing it off, and then Ori taking this orb and putting it where it needs to go and saving the world. So I did like that. I love that they put these characters had reasons for doing what they were doing. Like most of the games that I played, the main evil villain will have a reason for doing what he's doing, but every single character in this game, and it wasn't many, so they could do this. They could easily do this, but every single character in this game had a reason for being the way that they were, and I just found that I like that trait in the game. When you can give me an enemy that I almost kind of feel bad for, I think that's dope because I'm conflicted then. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very dope. So at the end of the day, I did really like the story. I do understand where you're coming from though, where you say that it does seem like at the beginning that the story is just backfill for the adventure that you go on. You know what I'm saying? It's just filler for the world. But I think that there was a lot there. It was just you had to look for it. Yeah. All right, with that said, fellow nerds, if you don't have anything left to say on the story, Jamocha, we are going to move to the graphics. All right. So, the graphics, man, there's a lot I could say about the graphics. Jamocha, I'm gonna let you lead on this one because I would like to hear your opinion. You played this on Xbox One, I'm assuming, and so you played it in glorious 4K. Uh, Right. Actually, Moke, hold on one second. I might have you say that again because somebody just said they can't hear you. Thank you, Genesis, for letting us know. Give me one second. Yeah, he could not hear you at all. So I am going to look into that really quick. I don't say something for me, Moke.
Yep, I am here.
He is here. Okay, say something for me again.
Yep, I'm still here.
Perfect. Yep, you should be good now. Okay, so I do apologize for that. Genesis, thank you very much for letting us know. So, Moke, from what I gather, you said you thought it was very beautiful. If you don't mind summing up what you just said to me just a moment ago.
Yep. Yeah. So again, I played it on Xbox One X, so in 4K, and the overall graphical style was very beautifully done. The game was actually very colorful. Like I said, the you can actually tell what was going on in the graphics. Like the water, you could tell the separation between when you were in the water and you were out of the
Hmm.
water. Very colorful, very detailed game, uh, right down to the particle effects. And overall, I thought the art style of this game is on par with any game in this genre. Yes, it is a side-scrolling game,
Hmm.
but yes, the color and the graphics were very well done. Like I said, down to the particle effects. I was pleasantly surprised by how beautiful this game actually was. Um, Ori was Ori's overall color scheme was just he was pretty much like white,
Yeah,
translucent blue. Out of all of the whole game, he was probably just the least inspiring. He was just very just plain
yeah,
and bland, but everything else more than made up for it, where it did not, take away from the game.
yeah. What's funny is I didn't think about that until you said it. How plain Ori is.
Yeah,
Ori, yeah, Ori is very plain character. Um, yeah, that's a good that's a good look there. Wow, I didn't think about that. So yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. The world is beautiful. I didn't play it on Xbox One. I played it on Switch actually. Um,
okay.
and I just wanted to play it there so I could take it on the go with me. Even on Switch, the game and what you guys are seeing now on screen was captured on Switch. The game is very beautiful. There's a lot going on, and it looks so. The first thing I noticed about this game was that it looks hand drawn. Um,
Hmm.
but I looked into it, and it's not hand drawn. This is achieved using um one of Ubisoft's engine. Was it Ubisoft? I think it was Ubisoft's engine. Yeah, Ubisoft's art engine uh, made this game look the way it does, and I don't blame. Like I love hand drawn games, but we seen how long Cuphead took to develop. Cuphead was 100% hand drawn, and I think part of the reason that game took so long was because it was hand drawn. Now, I'm going to compare these games are not alike at all. I'm just going to compare it from an art perspective. Ori is not that far off from what Cuphead looks like in terms of the beauty, overall beauty. They do have different art
Beautiful.
styles, but in terms of
Yeah.
in my opinion, Cuphead does look better. It does look better, but Ori
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting.
Ori is, and it's not by much. It's literally by a grain. A grain. Like Ori is
Hmm.
that beautiful to me that I do compare it to something hand drawn like Cuphead. Um,
So I would not have compared it to Cuphead because I think yeah, the art styles are so different.
yeah,
Cuphead has a 30s, 40s, hand
yeah,
drawn, grainy, pencil looking style, and whereas Ori is more modern, high end, triple A type design. So I would have never compared those two. So that's very interesting that you compared those two.
yeah. I compare them because I think most of the internet thinks that Ori is actually hand drawn, and that's what I thought initially. Like going into it, when I was playing it on Xbox One, I only looked into it because I was playing it on Switch afterwards. Ori looks hand drawn to me, and that's why I compare it to Cuphead because Cuphead was hand drawn. But there are very minute differences between the two that you could tell. Ori is not as flat as Cuphead. First of all, um,
Right.
there's layers to Ori, so that was one indication that maybe you're not dealing with a hand drawn game. And I'm not saying that any hand drawn artist couldn't achieve this, but I'm saying that it would take a long time to achieve a hand drawn Ori game. Like this game was not a small game. Um, but yeah, that's the reason I compare them for the most part because even when I looked into it, I typed in Google was Ori hand drawn, and there were sites that noted in their reviews even that Ori was hand drawn. It in fact was not hand drawn. Um, it's all Ubisoft's Art Engine. That's what they call it, Ubisoft Art Engine. It's the same engine that did Rayman, the latest Rayman games. And you could tell because Ori and those Rayman games sort of look similar, different color palettes, different art style a little bit,
Yep.
but you can tell when you can usually tell when an engine when two games are using the same engine, and I think this is one of those cases. But yeah, overall, the game, the effects, everything was beautiful to me. Um, I don't think that I had a problem like deciphering what was background and what was foreground. I don't think I ever died because I didn't understand what was background and foreground. I bring that up because there have been games, 2D games, where I couldn't tell the difference. Um, this game, everything's clear as day. The foreground and what you can jump on and cannot jump on is clear, in my opinion. Um,
So my opinion. So there was there are a couple things I want to point out in that
mhm,
category. So I think the one downside to the particle effects were that sometimes I got confused with like some of the enemies shooting me with some stuff that was like
mm,
either like red or
mhm,
purple. I really, for me, sometimes I got confused with it. It kind of got lost in the overall color scheme because in some areas it's very colorful. Like there was foliage on the
mhm.
ground, and then the enemies would shoot something, and it's almost the same color. So I would get hit by that a number of times because I couldn't
Oh
tell
yeah.
that it was actually a an object coming from the
Uh-huh.
enemy.
Yeah.
So I had that experience, a number of times. Like, God damn it, I just hit that thing again. I couldn't even see it. So I think it was because of the color
The
scheme.
color scheme.
They were just really close together at times.
Yeah, I could agree with that as well, actually. Because I did have that something similar, but then as I continued to play the game, I think I was getting better at determining what was enemy fire and what wasn't enemy fire.
Hmm.
I 100% did die for a couple of times for the reasons you just said though. But it was early on for me, which is why it was early on. So yeah, I 100% agree with you that yeah, sometimes the enemy fire and there's these slimes that I had a problem with. They shoot like it's usually three at a time. They shoot them all at the same time and they come out in all different directions.
Yep.
Those I had a
Yep.
problem with,
Exactly.
especially when they landed on the ground, because I wasn't paying attention and thought it was foliage like you. I would always run over those and occur damage from that. So yeah, that's a good yeah insight as
Yeah,
well.
I had that happen a lot with
Yeah,
those.
those things were mad annoying at first, and then I I kind of got used to them, especially toward the end. Um, Being able to determine what was their fire. It has the you could if you study it. I'm not even say that I'm not even gonna say that you get used to it just because you play it a lot. I think the only reason I got used to it is because I looked at it a lot and kind of put it in my head. Okay, these spiky little blobs, I cannot walk over. You know,
Right.
I think I had to do that. But yeah, if you're just running through the game, it's like if I was to speed run this game, I think that would be a big issue for me. In fact, I know for a fact that it would be a big issue for me because if you're just running through the game, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference. So yeah, between those attacks and foliage. But when I got toward the end of this game, Jamoka, I said to myself, I think that this is Microsoft's best looking game. And that's just if it's one of Microsoft's best looking game if it's not their best looking exclusive game. That's what I mean. The exclusives. Cuz I love all Microsoft's games, Halo, Gears of War. Um but I think I enjoyed the art style of this game more than any of those other games. That's how that's how good it was in my opinion. That's how beautiful it was in my opinion. A lot of times it was like looking at art to me. Some of the cutscenes were like just watching a painting move. So I really enjoyed the way this game looked. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it looks different from all of the other Microsoft games.
yeah.
You know, all the other ones, are more realistic,
Hmm.
photorealistic. This one is purely, artistic and colorful, and yeah, yeah, it's definitely probably their best looking game,
Yeah.
graphical, yeah.
Um, there was another thing that I was going to mention about the art. Uh, the enemies design. I did want to talk about. Um, we just saw Gumo save one of the lights from destruction. Uh, the enemy design was interesting in that I really didn't vibe with it at first. If I'm being honest, like, so there was nothing wrong with the way that they were drawn. I guess I would have just wanted to see. I feel like I didn't see much variety. Um, I think that there was an opportunity to 100% change. So, like, when you go from the variety going from section to section was so it wasn't it was there was a lot of variety in the environments themselves. So there's a
Yes.
fire, there's dark, there's light areas, there's ruins. Like I loved going through the game and seeing all these different environments. Um, I wish that they would have made some of the enemies a lot different when you got to these environments. So a lot of the times the enemies were just different skins of the same enemies you've been seeing. Um, and I guess I didn't get that tired of it where it hurt my opinion of the game too much. But I think I would have loved to see some completely different and some enemies that were completely different based off the environment that you were in. Um, and I know that in some cases they did that. There were some rock enemies that would roll towards you and they would actually explode on impact.
Yep.
So there were some different types of enemies, but for the most part, I feel like at the end of the game, I feel like I was looking at the same enemies for quite a long time. If I had to, and this is a minor complaint, if I had to make a minor complaint, that would be the one for me. But other than that, man, like we said, like the backgrounds in these environments, the way that the trees sway, the way that the foreground, even like the foreground, you will see trees swaying in the foreground. Like, oh, that was all so visually pleasing to me.
Yeah, they actually did a very good job with the amount of
Yeah,
detail
there's a
that they put into this game. I mean, like I said, from the tree swaying to running through grass and the trees, the
mhm,
foliage. Yeah, the art direction is really hands down one of the best
yeah,
for Microsoft. Clearly,
yeah. I feel like they put a lot of energy and love into the art. I wonder who the artist. I should have probably looked at who was responsible for the art in this game because I think they really did a really good job. and I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and they're a small studio too, Moon
Yeah,
Studios.
Moon.
Although they've been around for a
Mhm.
while, they only have two games out. Ori and then Ori and the Will of the Wisp. So
Yeah, and this is a Microsoft owned studio, right? If I'm not mistaken, Microsoft owns Moon Studio, or maybe they just own the rights to Ori. I don't know if they own the studio, but
good
they
question.
do own the rights to Ori for sure because I remember it being a big deal when it came to Switch because it was a Microsoft game. It says it's a Microsoft game when you boot it up on Switch. So I don't know if they own just the rights to Ori or if they own the whole studio, but I can look into that later. All right, Moke. Good discussion on the graphics there. They get an A+ from me.
Yep,
Um,
definitely.
let's talk about the sound. The sound.
Okay.
Um, there is a song in this game called "Restoring the Light and Facing the Dark." I love this song. Or yeah, this I like. It was one of the songs that I listened. It's now one of the songs that I listen to outside of the game. Um, and you first hear this song in the first chase scene of um gameplay. So I don't know if you've gotten this far. So the first, it's not really a chase scene; it's an escape scene, I should say, where you are trying to escape the area where the world is flooding. The part of the world is flooding. Did you get there?
Talking about the Genso tree.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that under gameplay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, there's a song that plays.
But that song that you're talking
Yeah,
about, okay.
there's a song that plays during that sequence where I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's violent. I don't think it's violence, but that song is very beautiful to me, and I actually looked it up to find out what it was, and I added it to a playlist, one of my chill playlists, and it's now a part of my playlist. And
Robert saying the whole soundtrack is
it,
beautiful. Yeah, I agree. I think the music was the music actually matched the
mm-hmm,
game, from the very chill vibes. It made you actually feel like you were actually in a forest,
mm-hmm.
and how the music actually adapted to the situations that you were going through. So they did a beautiful job with that as well.
I 100% agree with you there. And this is this is another reason why I love this. Like the story was as impactful as it was because the sound was so genius as well. Like I think the graphics, the sound came together in a way, and the scenes where there were cutscenes, where there were cutscenes, the way that they implemented the soundtrack in those cutscenes was so good to me. It made you feel sad at times. It made you feel like you were in danger. And that scene where you're trying to get out of the flooding, the from away from the tree, was one of them. I like the sense of urgency that song made me feel was amazing. And not only that, I love the way that it sounds. So I think they did that a lot with um, every aspect of this game. Like as you're just running through these levels, there's kind of this chill music playing in the background.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I loved it.
Oh, great. Rob Stewart said he's in a videography group with the Gareth Coker. He's the guy that did the music.
Oh
He's
man,
the main composer for the music for the game.
well, yeah. If
Yep.
tell this guy that he made some great music. Um, yeah, like I said, some of it made it to playlist in my YouTube on my YouTube channel now. So I'll be listening to that from here on out. um, but the music wasn't the only thing that was amazing. I think that the sound effects were good as well, Jamoka. Like Ori's jump, for instance, when he jumps and flips and he does this little twirl, the sound
Hmm.
effect that plays, if I heard that sound effect without playing this game, I would be like, oh, that sounds like sort of like a little twirl. Like that's I think that they matched up sounds pretty well with what was going on in the world. Like when the enemy shot at you and these little nasty blobs hit the ground and then they eventually exploded. The way that they exploded made it sound nasty, but it was the sound was so good. It's like it's
Right.
it was done very well, very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. So yeah. So I played it on a surround sound
Oh
system,
yeah.
and I was it was a side scroller, so I was expecting it, and it was by a smaller studio, cheaper game. So I was expecting the sound from a surround sound standpoint to be very blah and dull, but I was pleasantly surprised by the use of the surround sound. Now it wasn't as big as some AAA games, but it matched it matched exactly what the game was trying to portray.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle ruffling of the leaves in the background, and you would hear things crawling through the grass in the
Mm-hmm.
background, music and little just different effects going on around you. So again, very good use of surround sound in this games.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I would love to hear this game in surround sound actually. I when I was playing it, I used headphones for the most part, and it sounds very good in headphones. I can't imagine what it sounds like with some speakers surrounding you. But yeah, overall, I think Ori's attacks, when you attack with the little light ball, the ball of light,
Hmm.
it sounds kind of electrical, but it sounds good. I think that sound matches the way that attack looks. Um, the explosions were beautiful sounding. Yeah, it was overall. I was looking through my notes. It's overall the sound was very satisfying. I have
Yep.
to say.
Very. Yep.
All right, Jamoka, we are going to move on. If you don't have anything else, of course, to
Nope. We're good.
the gameplay. Most important part of any game, arguably. Um,
Yep.
so where do you want to start, man? there, there. So, Metroidvanias are my favorite type of game. Like, it's my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite type of game. It's basically games that take inspiration from Metroid and Castlevania. Um, so I am very picky with the Metroidvania games that I play. Um, let's start with you. What did you think about the gameplay, just high level, or even if you want to get into
I
detail? What did you
well,
think about the gameplay?
overall, I thought the gameplay was very well done for the most part. Overall, I mean, there's some minor gripes. I'll get into that,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, I again, it's a Metroidvania type game, so taking that into consideration, I thought what they did was a very good job. Um, I thought progressing was done well. The pacing was done
Mm-hmm.
well. I loved, getting I don't know the name of it, but getting the orbs and stuff to upgrade my
Yep.
abilities. So I would love, getting that because I end up making, obviously making the Ori a little bit, more powerful every
Mm-hmm.
time. I love, the attacks, his main attack with the little light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
Make upgrading that, getting the double jump, things like that. Which again, in a Metrovania type game, you have to come back to certain areas to to progress even further. So yeah, I thought the overall gameplay was really well. It was they did a good job with that.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I do have, I think, one or two gripes with the gameplay, but let's start with the positive. Everything that you said holds true for me as well. I think that they did an amazing job with how the game feels. So if a Metroidvania doesn't feel good to me, if I press that A button or whatever the jump button was, if I press that A button and the character doesn't feel like he did that action immediately, I immediately don't want to play that game. Um,
Hmm.
and everything felt snappy. Ori's jumps felt very snappy. He did exactly. His momentum was awesome. He did exactly what I or he or she. I don't think they ever disclose what Ori is. I think it's just a it, but
Yeah.
it's very snap. The actions were very snappy. The controls. I never. This is
I,
one.
you mentioned
Mhm.
momentum. I thought momentum was a little bit heavy for me.
Heavy.
Playing this game. Yeah, he would over jump. Like I would try to land on a particular
Mhm.
platform, and he would overshoot it a lot. In my opinion,
Okay. Um,
he would fall off the edge, or have to try to jump again and slow my jump
got you.
down. So
Um, yeah, I didn't have that problem with momentum. Uh,
okay,
but I hadn't played a 2D side. The last 2D side scroller I played was Splasher, and
yeah, play that
yep,
last month.
played that last month. I don't. They don't feel similar to me, but I didn't have a problem getting used to Ori's momentum, which is the one of the biggest reason I say that it was good in my opinion. Like I didn't have a problem getting used to it. I do think that I had that problem early on. Like you say, I would overshoot my jumps. Um, but I think the momentum was predictable enough for me to get used to it. Um, and that I appreciate when when people make these Metroidvania or 2D side scroller games. If the momentum, if I could get used to the momentum, I'm okay with it. Um, yeah, overall, I think the gameplay was good. Now, the gripe that I had was with so you as you go through the game, you get these moves like you talked about. There's a list of moves that you get just progressing through the game, and then there's moves that you can get by upgrading. Right. One of the moves that you get is you can or it can charge jump. I don't know if you gotten that move yet. I don't think that you have, but in order to charge jump, you have to hold the left trigger and then press the jump button.
Oh,
Okay? So that's all fine and dandy. If you're on the ground, you hold the left trigger and you jump. That's all fine. Where I started to have problems was with that move was when you would hang on walls, you can use this move as well. So you can hang on a wall
okay.
and you can hold the charge jump button and you can use the analog stick to point in the direction you want Ori to go. And you can press the jump button to go in that direction. I think the only reason I had an issue with this and didn't get a chance to get used to it was because that move set came later on in the game. So let me try to explain this the best way I can. The charge jump, if you wanna do it while you're hanging onto the wall, you have to hold the left trigger and you have to be holding the right trigger to hang onto the wall. And you have to use the analog stick to point it in the direction you want to go. And you have to press B to shoot Ori in the direction you want to go. For some reason, I was having such a hard time getting used to
Mhm.
my hands doing all of that at the same time. Now uh,
Oh,
that's just me probably because I'm sure I'll
oh, that sounds very
yeah.
difficult. I mean, there were even some earlier moves that I had to get used to in the game. So some of the moves, did take a little bit of getting used to. I think the one of the first ones that I had to struggle with was when you had to use your jump over a projectile
Mhm.
and propel yourself somewhere. So that one I struggled with at first, but then I, got the hang of
Right.
it.
Yeah, and I think it's because this move came later in the game, so I didn't have all game to get used to, you know, doing this with my hands. That move got that move got very difficult at times because the game becomes fast paced, especially when you're getting chased by something. And there are sequences in the game where you get chased by things that it's not necessarily you restoring light to a particular area, but there are scenes where you get chased by lava. Um, because you had to use you had to block this. There's a whole lava section. You have to block off the lava, and you get chased by it sometimes. You have to use it there, and it was very difficult to me. And again, this is just me. I don't know if it's a fault of the game. I will say it's not a fault because if I had more time to get used to it, I'm sure I could. You know what I'm saying? Um, Again, Ori did what I expected him to do. It was just more my hands getting used to managing pressing all those buttons at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
I think that was really only the only gripe I had with the game in terms of gameplay was
All right. So let me rattle off my
yep, yep.
problems. So there were a couple of times where I thought that I think when you design a game like this that could be, that could be, speed runs, sped runs,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Um, you should be able to go through the game without taking a hit,
Mm-hmm.
right? I felt like there were areas where you couldn't avoid that at all.
Gotcha.
Like in order to just get to the next level, you had to jump and land through spikes or whatever, then lose like half your life. I took a little bit of an issue with that. Some areas where they put enemies and objects there just for the hell of it, just to ramp up the
Uh huh.
difficulty. And so like, okay, well that kind of seems pointless. It just seems like you're just making the game difficult just to make it difficult for no apparent reason. So that was another issue I had with. But the biggest area I had the most problem with was with the Genso tree. You
The
talk
Genso
about
tree.
where the tree
Mm-hmm.
floods. Oh my goodness! I don't know how if it was difficult for you, but it probably took me at least, I want to say, 30
Mm-hmm.
tries before I got up the tree. It was to the point where I stopped and didn't play the game for a few days, and then I came back and still struggled a little bit, but then I was finally able to get to it. The problem with it was because I thought coming in that the water would rise up at a certain pace, regardless of how fast you
Uh
went.
huh.
That's not the
No.
case. It catches up to you no matter how fast you go. So I thought that you could build yourself some time
Yeah.
so you can actually maneuver some of the jumps and other mechanics that you had to do. No, it didn't matter. You couldn't build up enough time. The water would catch up to a certain pace regardless. So you still had a very finite time to progress up the
Yep.
tree. And then obviously there was no saving throughout that whole tree because you were on unstable ground. So yeah, Genso Tree was the most difficult and annoying part of this game. I was so happy once I finally made it out that damn tree. And it's not like it's a small or a very quick thing. No, you're jumping up this tree for a little bit, for a little while.
Yeah.
So and I was like, and there's no save, so it's like you have to do this in one sitting.
Oh
So yeah,
yeah.
so that tree was very annoying. Very that to me was the most difficult part of the game.
Yeah. There's
At least that I reached at so far.
so you are you are right. So this and sections like these because there is more than one of these sections
Oh, great.
require your require pixel perfect accuracy. Um,
Hmm.
I'm actually
It really,
I'm actually gonna watch a
yeah, it
speed
really
run.
pushes your manual
Yeah,
dexterity to
because
the
I,
next
I want to
level.
see somebody I want to see somebody with a lot of skill get through this, and I want to see how they do it. So I'm glad you brought up speed
Hmm.
runs. But yeah, I many Oris died in that section of the game. Like many
Yeah.
Oris. And I think that if you say you died 30 times, I think I died more than 30 times in that part before I got
Well,
used.
that's probably a conservative
Yeah,
number.
before I got used to control, because that part I was so determined to get past that part that I didn't really mind it that much. But yes, it was difficult. It was very difficult. But I think I can run through that part now. If I was to go back to that part after playing the whole game, I think I could get through that part relatively easy now, because of what I had to go through in the rest of the
Go
game.
through. Okay.
But yes, like
At that point in the game, it was like,
yeah,
oh failed to
They
say
break you
just,
in.
just it was
Yeah.
frustrating. Also, yeah, not only just to jump off the Gensler tree, I I don't know if you felt this, but I thought the difficulty ramped up very quick in the game. Even within the first, I want to say the first hour, well, some of the complaints I had earlier were starting to show up, where objects or difficult jumps
Mhm.
or putting an enemy where I needed to land at after a jump. I thought that ramp up started early earlier on in the game than I would have liked it to.
Yeah. Yeah. The difficulty in this game is a weird one because it does ramp up considerably when you get to a new area. I've noticed.
Hmm.
Um, but the counterpoint to that was to for me was it once I figured it out, it felt fair enough because so when you talk about enemy difficulty, um, the enemy difficulty was tough from the get go to me. Like these enemies are no pushovers, or
Right.
was never any pushovers. But in terms of like progressing through the level and kind of just doing the platforming stuff, a lot of the sections introduced you to new ways to play the game. Like that's why again, we could go back to the new move that I got and I couldn't get used to it because it was toward the end of the game, toward the end of the game. I'm not gonna say you get that move at the very end, but it was closer toward the end of the game. A lot of when you get these new moves, Ori and the Blind Forest expects you to become good with these new moves. That's the one thing I notice about the difficulty. Like, all right, here you go. You got this new move. Now you got these new areas you can go to.
Yeah.
Good luck. Like it's very old school in its difficulty, in my opinion. And I didn't necessarily get too frustrated with it. No, when I say too frustrated with it, I got frustrated because I died a lot, but I wasn't getting frustrated with the game because I felt like it was unfair. I felt like the game was fair. I just needed to be better at it. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That's how I started to perceive the difficulty after that that tree flooding scene. But yeah, I agree. The game's difficult. And I played on normal.
Yeah. Me
I
too.
played on normal. I assume that it doesn't get really too much because a lot of the difficulty is in the level design, in my opinion. The enemies, I guess, well, the enemies are not, again, they're not pushovers, but you could get used to the enemies. I feel like I died way more to environmental deaths than I did enemies.
Yeah, I think what you said was the level design is what really makes the game
Yeah,
difficult. Yes.
yeah. So yeah, it's a very difficult game. It expects you to get better with the moves that it gives you. Um, and to that point, I really appreciated that about the game. Um, I I hope that Will o' the Wisp is kind of the same way, where they didn't hold back from its level design difficulty because these levels were like puzzles a lot of the time. You just had to figure out, you know, some of these levels were like puzzles. Some of them were just standard, going through levels. But there were some levels that were like kind of like puzzles, and they were very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I wanted to bring up for the gameplay was the progression system. Um, there are things to collect in this game. You can level up Ori's energy, which he uses to save. He uses it for some attacks. You can level up his HP as well, and you could get additions to the moves that you already have. So, for example, you get a double jump. You get the double jump by playing the game, but you can upgrade that double jump if you want to a triple jump. Um, and that's all in the skill tree. So, I feel like
Yep.
a lot of these upgrades, the game I feel like the game would be very difficult. Would have been way more difficult for me if I didn't seek out these upgrades. Do you think you? I don't know how many of these upgrades that you got from the skill tree itself.
I think I think I only made it to about halfway through the skill tree.
Okay.
So I didn't get the triple jump yet, but yeah, but progressing with the jump and then using the dash with the
Yeah.
jump, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that at least for me right now, it was you needed to have these skills in order to progress throughout the game.
So there. So there.
At least so far.
So there are a few. So the move list. You don't need the triple jump to beat the game. For an example, there are upgrades that you don't need, and I think the upgrades in the tree you don't necessarily need them. The moves that you need to finish this whole game you get while playing the game. So when you're playing the game, you go to these trees and Ori absorbs a new move from the tree. When you get
Right.
those, I think those are the, and that's why I'm gonna watch a speed run because I'm very curious to see how these speedrunners make it through the game without upgrading in the tree. You know what I'm saying? So if they're speed running and not killing many enemies, they're not gonna get many orbs to spend on the skill tree. So I'm very curious to see how they progress through the game without upgrading some of these abilities. But yeah, like the spirit flame, the wall jump, the charge flame, the double jump, the bash, like those are core move sets that you get just from making it to certain areas of the game. And then there's moves that are in the tree that you get from you actively going to that saving and going to that menu and upgrading. And those moves make the game a little bit easier once you master those abilities in real world. So once you upgrade and you play around with it, they can the triple jump for sure. Cause I don't know if I could have beat the game without the triple jump. There are some, there are times where I was saved by the skin of my teeth by that triple jump by itself. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because it adds another layer to difficulty if you're not going to upgrade your core move sets. I think they did it very smart. I think the way that they handled those upgrades and how much easier they make the game, I think they handled that very well. Because the game still didn't get super easy for me, even though I was actively trying to upgrade all these. It just made it a little bit easier for me. Yeah, a little
Manageable.
bit more manageable. Yep, yep. Um, so I think that at the end of the game, I put in 10 hours and I got 80% of the collectible, everything that you could get in the game. So it's not a long game, not a long game at all, and I still have even after 10 hours, I still have stuff to collect. So I may or may not go back. I think I just want to move. I think when I play Ori again, it'll be Will o' the Wisp. Um,
Yeah. Same here.
but final thoughts. I, I think overall, when I take everything we just said or I just said into consideration, this is one of my favorite games that I've played in a very it's high up there on the list for me in terms of franchises that I enjoy, game franchises that I enjoy. Like I really hope that I enjoy Will o' the Wisp this much or even a little bit more, and I hope that they continue to make these games. What did you final thoughts for you?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah. That's high praise coming from you. Yeah. So yeah, it was overall a very enjoyable game to
Mm-hmm.
play. Um, like I said, even with the complaints I said about the game, and it just makes you better. You just need to play
Mm-hmm.
better. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But yeah, everything's done well from the sound design, the audio, the level design, the graphics, the progression system, the upgrades. They did a very good job, and it does play like your typical Metrovania. And my only pet peeve with Metrovanias is I get stuck sometimes
Hmm.
and not knowing where I need to
Yeah, you're
go.
not
So
alone.
I mean, I was like, I pretty much like this was pretty much early on in the game too. I went around the whole map like twice. I'm like, where am I going? I don't know. And I finally figured out.
Yeah,
But yeah, but overall, I mean, that's just typical Metrovania. But
yeah.
yeah, overall, very well game, very well designed game. Overall, a score out of 10, I'm going to give it a 9.
Oh, high praise from you, man. That's nice. Um, so if I had to score this game, it would be a 10. I I
Oh,
like
okay.
like
Wow.
this is literally one of my favorite game, like one of my favorite Metroidvanias. They took that genre of game and did it very very well. There are not many games that can do that with Metroidvania. Like I play a lot of Metroidvanias. I don't you don't hear me talk about them because they were not good. This one they like you said, well designed. Level design was great. Art was great. Um, the gameplay was great. It respected you as a player. It let you figure things out. It let you learn. Um, the story. It and a big reason why I might love the story is because of how beautiful and how well the game plays. But I thought the story was very well done for how simple it was. It's not the story is not gonna meet the level of like a Last of Us. This is not that type of game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a simple story, but within that simplicity, they did a lot of things that made you understand its characters and made you understand its world. So, man, yeah, it, this game was an easy 10 for me. At the end of it, when I seen the ending, I was like, yeah, this is one of my favorite games. Ori is now one of my favorite characters.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man. Great discussion. It's always a pleasure talking to you about video games, Jamoka. Guys, if you didn't hear me at the beginning, please support your fellow nerds. YouTube.com/sounds nerdy. You can subscribe to both our channels, the gaming channel and the tech channel. We have more videos coming, so please stay tuned. What else? What else do we got? Twitter handles. Jamoka, what's your Twitter handle? Where can they follow you at?
Twitter SN Jamoka.
Um,
I'm also on Gab at SN Jamoka as well.
Gab. This is new.
Yeah, that's a open freedom
Oh,
platform.
nice. Gab. What is it again?
Yep. SN Jamoka, same
Follow him
thing.
on Gab at S Jim Jamoka. I'll check it out. Um, you can follow me on Twitter at Charlie Pink SN. Of course, the Facebook group as well. The Facebook group, we do a lot of gaming discussion in the Facebook group. So if you haven't already, go to facebook.com, log in and everything, and then search for Sounds Nerdy. There's a Sounds Nerdy gaming group. Those guys are awesome. As you can see, they help us out with audio when we need them to. So appreciate that, love, guys. Thanks for to everyone that watched. I really appreciate it. There is a new Game Club game. Are you ready for the new Game Club game, Jamoka?
I am. What game is that?
It's a game called Metro 2033. Jamoka, you can find this game on GamePass for Xbox One. It's on PC.
Yep.
It's on PlayStation 4. Basically anywhere you want to play it. Actually, it just came to the Switch. This game is on Switch, Jamoka. You can play it on Switch if you want to. I won't be doing that because this game looks beautiful on Xbox, so that's where I'll be playing it.
Well, so which Metro? Because there's three
Metro
Metros.
2033. So there's,
That's the
yep,
first
that's
one.
the first one. We're going to start with the
Yep.
first one. So Metro 2033, and then Last Light was the second one, and then Exodus is the third one, I believe. But yes, so if you haven't heard of this series, which I don't know too much about it as of right now, but from it was made from a book series. So I am very much looking.
I've actually just played the first two.
You played the first two?
I've played the
Oh
first two.
snap! So you are, damn, you already beat them?
I I didn't beat the first one because I'm actually trying to just get to the third game,
Okay,
but
okay,
I played a good,
a good chunk
number
of
of
it.
hours of the first
Okay,
game, so
so you can still talk about it.
I can still talk about it.
Good,
Yeah,
good. Okay, you're okay with this Game Club game. Yep.
yep.
All right. So yeah, I'm very excited about playing this because it's been on the backlog, and it was the one game that I happened to add to the list of games that were recommended. And when I did the random pick, this is the game that was selected. So let's. I hope you enjoy, or I hope you join us in playing Metroid 2033, available for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, and the Nintendo Switch now. Um, but that is going to be all from us, guys. Oh, excuse me. Jeez. Snuck up on me. That's going to be all from us. Thank you. That's going to be all from us. Hope you enjoyed your time with us because we enjoy whenever we get together with you. But until the next time, guys, take care.
Stay nerdy.